So, Ben, we're back together again. Seems like this is our annual date as
I look forward to it.
people start getting these property tax appraisals, and it's sticker shock in some years. This year feels different, Ben, and I know you're a lot closer to it than I am because you're actually dealing with people who are going through this. But I've been hearing from a lot of people. A lot of people are seeing some huge increases.
Yeah, and we've been hearing a lot about how the market has just been, going nuts. And for a lot of people, year over year, they're seeing 10 to 15% appreciation every year. So that's great if you want to sell your house or if you're hoping that your home's going to gain in value. But where that's not fun is when you have to pay that tax bill every year, and every year it just keeps going up.
So do you just, based upon, anecdotally what you're seeing so far this year, though, because I've been looking through some of the numbers from some of the central appraisal districts. I haven't gotten all of the rundowns yet. But from what I'm seeing in years past, there used to be this chunk of people whose value didn't go up at all. It was unchanged. It didn't go up. It didn't go down. And it was a good sized chunk of people in some of these appraisal districts. And then there was a decent chunk who, had value decreases in those years. And that was a sizable chunk as well. This year, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing that there's almost no one who didn't get an increase or who stayed the same. And it is enormous, the number of people who saw big increases, especially, on the heavier side of the scale there.
Yeah. And, again, it's a symptom of the market we're in. And overall, it's a great thing. It means that there's a lot of demand. It means there's a lot of people coming here from all over the country because they recognize how great it is to live in Dallas. It's getting harder and harder to find a home in the Dallas area in a desirable location. And of course, that means values go up. And, that's no secret, and it hasn't escaped the appraisal districts either.
So let me ask you this. Do you think, because I know that you've been helping people in recent years to actually protest their appraisals, do you think that we're going to see a record number of protests this year just because so many people are seeing such increases?
Geez, I sure hope so. I really think that, this is one of those things that, you should be doing it every year. You don't need to protest your property taxes every year, but you should review them, and you should make sure that that increase isn't disproportionate to what the market's doing. Because even with this crazy market that we've been seeing, when we list homes, they sit out there for a day or two before they're sold, and that market is something that's really going to push those property taxes up as well. So, it's so universal right now, and there's so much demand. Even with the market doing what it's doing, we're still seeing those appraisals can be high. We've had a lot of success in protesting for people already this year.
So I always have this yearly date with you, and I have this yearly date with Chandler Crouch out in Tarrant County, and he's notorious for offering the protests as well. And I know that you all know each other, and you've been doing this for several years now. For people who are newer here, who maybe just moved here in the last year or 2 years, or for people who haven't felt the need to protest their appraisal before and hadn't thought to do this, walk me through how it works with you. How does this work? First of all, you guys expanded this year. You're in Dallas County, but then also you're going into Rockwall and Collin County now.
Yeah, we've expanded to Rockwall and Collin County just because we know that there's not a Chandler or a Ben out there in those counties doing this. So we want to try and help those folks as well. And really what we do is we review the value or the appraised value of the property and just make sure that what the market value is in line with what the appraisal is. For a lot of people, we find that we can argue down your property tax value just based on the fact that they kind of went a little high, they went a little aggressive based on what the market is actually doing.
And so what you're doing in that sense, when you're comparing it to what the market's actually doing, is what's called comps, which you're doing comparables. Basically, the houses around you that have sold in those 12 months that you were appraised for. So all of 2021, the houses that sold there and how that compares to, what your property is. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. In a nutshell, we're just looking at everybody else that is sold nearby you. We look at individual factors, like if you're on a really busy street, we think that can, affect your value. So we're just really looking for anything that we can do to make an argument to say, hey, you've got them appraised at this much. We really think it needs to be a little bit down here. What can you do to kind of get this adjusted properly?
Okay. And so how does this work if I think, gosh, okay, I want Ben to help me out here? First of all, you're not charging me. I'm not paying you anything. What do I do? Where do I go?
Yeah. So we make it super simple. We want our clients to go to dallastaxdispute.com. Like you said, there's no charge for this. This is something that we do to try and help people out and make sure that nobody's paying more than their fair share. From there, we're going to ask you for just a little bit of basic information. I process a lot of these. I process them all personally. So it takes me a little bit. So you'll get a confirmation email. We have a couple of videos that will give you tutorial and information on how to go about doing this. And then within a couple of days, we're going to get back to you and give you a market analysis and just tell you, hey, it's a great time to try and protest your property taxes. And, in my experience, this is what I think you should be aiming for. Or we'll just tell you that, it's not a great year to do this and you're pretty well lined up. That way we're not wasting your time.
And so if you tell me this is a great year to do this, I think that you've got a case to make here. What happens after that?
We walk you through the whole process, and really you just go on to the Dallas County website or whichever county you're in. You file your protest, which takes you about 2 minutes. We have you informally call an appraiser and just make your case based on the information that we provide. The whole thing should take you about 5 minutes. For most of we did an average of it, and I think we knocked about 40,000 off on the average person that we disputed last year. So we were saving about $40 a month.
That's a big deal. And Ben, don't you think that, and I hear this anecdotally from people as well, that a lot of these get solved very informally. It's not like you're having to go before this official board and set this, official presentation where you're arguing back and forth. A lot of this is done informally because, they realize the volume of protests they're going to get as well.
Yeah. And that's the way we advocate that you do it. Give that appraiser an informal call. They're going to do their best to come to an agreement with you. And if it doesn't work out, you don't like what they have to tell you, you can always go to that formal appraisal review board, and they'll give you a more definite answer. But if you can do it with an informal interview with that appraiser, you never have to leave your house. It's real simple.
I wonder too if again I keep hearing these predictions that this could be a record year for property tax appraisal protests just because so many people are seeing their values go up so much. I wonder if that maybe does help you a little bit if you're one of those protesting, because that's going to be a lot of work for these official appraisal review boards. They may be more inclined in that informal process if you're not asking for something crazy to go, hey, yeah, let's try to meet in the middle here.
Right. And yeah, they need to clear the decks. This has been happening for the last couple of years for them. And they're just, over demand and understaffed. So there is that motivation for them to just get it through and get it done. They have a required timeline that they need to get these all cleared out by. So you need to file your protest by May 15th. If you're going to ask for our help, we ask that you get out to dallastaxdispute.com by May 1st so that we have time to get through those and, clear out everything that we can do. But in the meantime, if you have questions or anything at all, we're here to help you with that stuff.
Ben, if somebody is making their case and let's say, maybe they even go all the way to, a formal hearing with the appraisal review board, what do you recommend for people as far as providing evidence? Do they, because the appraisal district can only see the outside of your house. They're making a judgment if they, have come by this year, the outside of your house and what the other houses in your neighborhood might be selling for. They don't know what's going on inside. If you've got some flaws or some problems, you got to document that.
Well, and even further than that, they don't go driving by your house. They're looking at a geographic area and whatever their boundaries are. They say, well, this area went up X amount. And so your house went up X%. And that's what your new appraisal is. So there are two ways to really protest your property taxes. We go after the appraisal amount and we just make sure that you're not being overassessed. The other thing you can do is attack your desirability, which is essentially the condition or the specific value of your home. So if you're on a busy street or you back up to a gas station or the highway, maybe that's something that's unique about your house that would make it less desirable than your neighbor who's, not backing up to that highway across the street. You can also show things like if your fence is falling over and you've got deferred maintenance, or there's cracks inside, or you can show that maybe you've got windows that are fogging up and the seals are broken. Honestly, give me a call about that stuff too, because I can refer you contractors who can help you with it. or we can just show you how to use that in order to lower your desirability rating and get you a break on your taxes.
I've even heard that, let's say you have something, that you should have gotten to probably by now, but maybe you didn't have the money or the will to do it yet. Let's say that you need something that's kind of a more expensive fix in the house, that it's a good idea to have a repair estimate saying, yeah, here's how much it would cost you to make your roof right. And you take that to the appraisal district and go, look, my roof is in really bad shape. If I were to repair it and make it right, it would cost me $10,000.
Yeah, that's a deferred maintenance piece. And you can take pictures of anything that's wrong with it. Obviously, a roof is a little bit tougher to take pictures of, but if you got a fence that's leaning in, that's a really easy thing to take a picture of. And those pictures help. Contractor bids are always better. So even if you're not planning on taking care of it right now, get that bid, figure out what your roof is worth, and then go back to that roofer when you're ready.
Ben, I want to ask you about homesteads because, we've talked a lot about this. I was really surprised because I was talking with the folks at the Dallas Central Appraisal District. I don't have the numbers on this for everywhere, but at the Dallas Central Appraisal District, I think that's a good litmus test because it's such a huge district. They deal with so many properties. And I asked them how many people have a homestead exemption, and they said about half. So they've got about 600,000 residential properties. They said about half of those have a homestead exemption on them. I was astounded by that number. That seems really, really low considering how much a homestead exemption can help you.
Yeah. And I would assume that those are also including non-owner occupant properties. So that number may be a little bit inflated, but I run into people every single year who have been living in their houses for a long time, who just never got around to it, or for whatever reason, don't have their homestead exemption. That'll take about 25 to 30% off your taxes right off the top. And it caps your increase at about 10% every year. It seems like a lot, but for a lot of people, there are properties that are, saving a lot of money based on that 10% year over year increase cap. So, that's the easiest thing you can possibly do. Everybody gets one homestead. And if it's your primary residence, you've been living there since January 1, you should have your homestead exemption in place. And there are other exemptions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. There are other exemptions like the over 65 exemption. So if you had a birthday and you turned over 65, get that exemption. There's also the disabled military veteran exemption. And those are two really strong exemptions that we end up seeing that most people who deserve them don't get them.
And in a lot of these cases too, it's not something where you have to really kick yourself right now after you've gotten this huge appraisal. Because you can go in and do that retroactively in a lot of cases. So it's still not too late to do that, but you got to do it.
I'll tell you that the appraisers that I've talked to down at the Dallas Central Appraisal District have always been really helpful. So if you have questions about how to retroactively instate an exemption, especially a homestead where you can prove that you've been living there for however long, give them a call and they'll be happy to help you with that stuff. I've found them to be extremely helpful. So
I think that's a very good point too, Ben, as we wrap this up here. We hear a lot of people who kind of make it out like the appraisal district is, full of it's sort of the big bad monster, and you got to gear up and have this big fight with them and all of that. It really is. I mean, you're going to find, every now and then you're going to have some hard times there, but you're going to find some level heads there. And it really is a negotiation. It's not a huge fight. You just have to go in, with your argument.
Yeah. And that's really it. They don't want to deal with contentious people. So when you're talking to them, be nice. This is a human being. He's got a stressful job right now. This is a stressful time to be a tax appraiser, especially in Dallas County. So just be nice to them and they're going to return the kindness. I've never had a bad experience with them. They've always been very easy to deal with.
So Ben, you're helping people get this process going and you're doing it free of charge and you're covering all of the Dallas Central Appraisal District. And this year you're spreading out into Collin and Rockwall counties as well. And I'm just curious, do you have a number in your head as to how many of these things you might end up with before it's all said and done?
We did about 600 of them last year. I'd love to do 1,000 of them this year. Just see if we can get there and see if we can do it. So if you would like to get your property taxes protested, DallasTaxDispute.com. Please get it in before May 1st. And we're primarily focusing on primary residences this year.
Well, I'm glad I caught you before you really get into the thick of things there, Ben, because I don't think you're going to have a lot of time in these weeks ahead for interviews. Thanks for doing this with us, man. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, man. I always look forward to these.